Hey guys, I'm back with another video. This is actually the first video of February. I plan to film at least twice or three times a month, but unfortunately last night I only filmed one video, and I wanted to film this one long time ago, but I didn't have a mic and I was not ready to do it, and now I'm ready. And I'm very happy because when I started this channel, I wanted to talk about anything that I like, anything that I'm passionate about, and one of them is books. I actually read a lot of books. I'm challenging myself to read more books this year, and I think I've been pretty good. I finished 5 books in January, and I plan to read 4 books in this month. This is a short month, so I think 4 books is more than enough. But today I want to talk about some of the books that I really enjoyed, and I actually think they are 5-star books, and I feel they had a good impact on my life and for other people as well. I want other people to read these books and get inspired and enjoy them. One more thing that I wanted to mention before I jump into the video is that I usually listen to books. Listening to audiobooks made me read much more book than before. But there's a thing. Some people don't like that. Some people think if they don't have a physical hard copy book in their hands, they cannot focus and they get distracted easily. And some people are reverse. I'm actually opposite of that. When I listen to somebody talking in my ear, either it's a book or podcast or anything, I get more focused and I get less distracted. So I just wanted to suggest to anybody who has not tried audiobooks to start doing it and see how fast they can finish the books that they like. And the good thing about audiobooks is that you can pretty much read books anywhere in any situation, and you can use your downtime, your spare time. For example, when you are, I don't know, driving, or you're waiting somewhere for your car to be inspected, or you're cleaning, or you're cooking, you can always listen to books, and that's perfect. Because for me, when I read a physical hard copy book, I have to be in a certain situation. I cannot multitask. Of course, I think nobody can, and that's the downside of reading traditional type of books. You have to find a time, and sometimes you never find that time during your day. That's why I suggest listening to books. Of course, I wanted to mention that even when you listen to books, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't buy hard copy books. For example, all of the books that I'm going to talk about today are the books that I listen to, but I have their hard copy as well because I really enjoyed them and I decided to purchase them and have them. The application that I use is, as I mentioned, Audible. I don't know any other application, and I really like it. It gives me 1 credit every month, and I always trade books. If I finish a book and I don't have a credit, I trade the books that I liked the least, or I don't need to have them in my library, in my Audible app, and I find new books. And the good thing is that you can listen to a sample of those books. The samples are usually less than 5 minutes, and they are from the content of the book, and you can listen to them and see if you like how the book is read, if you enjoy that part of content. Of course, if you don't like the book after you finish a certain amount of it, you can always trade it. You don't have to wait to finish it, and that's a good aspect, I think. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the video. The books that I'm gonna talk about today are these 3 books that you can see here. I'm gonna talk about them one by one and let you know what I like about them and what they are about. The first one is Greenlights. It's one of the best books I've ever read, or should I say I listened to. I never read this hard copy, but I have it because it has some, notes that I really wanna have them handy and go back to them anytime I want, and that's the reason that I purchased the hard copy. Greenlights is written by Matthew McConaughey. I think everybody knows him. He's an actor. He's an awesome actor, and now he's a writer. He wrote his own book, I think, in a very short time, and I think he's a very gifted writer. He also read the book in Audible, so when you listen to it, you feel Matthew McConaughey is talking to, which is so nice because he has an awesome voice, and he's a very passionate person, very authentic, and when you listen to him, you feel you know him for a long time. So I suggest, if you want to read this book, listen to it, and if you like it, you can always purchase the hard copy of it. It's not a long book. It's actually, let me see, 289 pages, and it includes a lot of pictures, and let me show you. For example, the parts that are more important, I'm not sure if you can see, but they are in this gray box, and there's a lot of them here. The reason that the book is called Greenlights is because the author wants to explain that life contains a lot of closed and open doors for any individual, and he uses green lights as a metaphor for that. For example, there's an opportunity for you. That's a green light. You go and you succeed, and sometimes the door is closed. Whatever you do, you cannot find a way to open it, and you have to change your way. That's a red light. Sometimes red lights turn into green lights with some effort. Sometimes they don't, and that's okay. And he explains the green lights of his life, lights that led him to success. And it's, as I mentioned, very authentic. He is a very vulnerable person in this book, and you can see he even talks about the time that he got arrested and the times that he were not a successful person like he is now, the times that he made mistakes. And it's good to know this kind of things about famous people, because you always see the results, you don't see the efforts and the failures, and when you read the books that these kind of people write, and you see what's behind the scenes, that's always nice. So I highly recommend reading this book in 2021. It's one of the best sellers of, I think, toward the end of 2020, and it's #1 New York Times bestseller. Of course, some people say it doesn't mean anything, and I agree, because sometimes books are really famous and they're #1 New York Times bestseller, and you read them and you're like, what? But this is not one of them. This is a really interesting book, and I think anybody should read it. Let's move on to the next one. This is not as new. I think most people that like Michelle Obama read her memoir, Becoming. I think it was published in 2018, but it took me a long time to read it. I always knew I wanted to read it, but I was too lazy to do that because it's a longer book. Let me see how many pages. It's 425 with acknowledgements. It's 425 pages. Without that, it's 421. It's definitely on a longer side, but it also has some pictures. I'm not sure if you can see that, but she talks about her childhood, her teenage years, going to university, then started dating Barack Obama and getting married to him, and her dating life, her marriage, how they got into politics. She's also very vulnerable in this book. She talks about miscarriage and IVF and things that people who are in public eyes usually don't tend to talk about. And of course, as I said about Greenlights, this is also one of the books, and when you read, you realize that sometimes in your life you always see the results in other people's life, and you see what they are now and compare yourself to them, and feel that you're a failure. It always happens to all of us, but when you see what's behind the scenes and what happened to them and the path that they chose and the failures that they had, you realize that they came a long way, and they experienced all kind of things in their life, and what they are today is a result of all of those failures, all of those disappointments, all of those efforts, all of those suffers that they went through. So I listened to this one as well, as I said, with her voice, which is awesome. I finished this book in less than 5 days, which is, I think, a record for me. So I also suggest listening to this one, but I also suggest having a hard copy handy, because you always want to go back to it and highlight the important parts and the parts that you liked. This is awesome. Read this book. The last book I'm gonna talk about is very different from the other two books. Actually, as I mentioned, I gave five stars to all of these 3 books on my Goodreads, and these 3 books are my favorite books on planet right now. Atomic Habits is also a New York Times bestseller book. It's written by James Clear. It's a very popular book right now. I think most people who are trying to improve their lives are reading this book or read this book. It's one of those books that if you want to focus on yourself and be a better person in your day-to-day life, you need to read. The reason that it's called Atomic Habits is that tiniest, the smallest, least important habits that you have in your daily life can have a huge impact on your overall life. This is the easiest I could explain it. It's actually explaining why it's important and how you can recreate your habits, how you can get rid of your bad old habits, how to make habits easier and more consistent and more desirable. And if your habits are bothering you, there's a way to change them. And if you want to have good habits and good routines in your life, you can definitely make them and stick with them. That's the most important part, right? If you have a good habit and you can just do it for a couple days or months and then forget about it, what's the point, right? I think I talked about it in one of my videos in the past, that if you have a good routine and it's a simple routine and easy to do, you stick with it. For example, I have a very simple skincare routine that I just created months ago, and I stuck with it because it's simple. I use less product and it's more simple and easy to do, and it's not a chaos, it's not a headache, and I can do it and I can continue it. If it was complicated, if I had a lot of different products that I wanted to use, I would do it maybe just a couple weeks and then give up. And I think everything is like that. Either it's having a routine to work out or to eat cleaner or anything like that. If it's easier and more desirable, there is a better chance to stick with it and continue it for a long time. Anyway, these were the 3 books that I wanted to talk about in my first video about books. I'm gonna talk about books more often in the future. I have a lot of good books that I wanted to talk about. I hope you read them. I hope you like them. If you already read them, let me know if you like them. And if you read them in the future, let me know if they were what you expected. Okay, so I think that's all I have for this video. I'm gonna make more videos about books for sure in the future. I have a lot of good books that I want to talk about. But I wanted to start with my favorite books in 2020 and a month of 2021. I actually read these 2 books in 2021, so it's not even a month that I finished these 2 books. And if I came across a book that I wanted to talk about that one individually, I'm gonna also make a video about that. Thank you so much for your time. I hope it was helpful, and see you next time. Bye.